thing started when choosing to be emotionally faithful. I realized there were little places where I was letting discomfort keep me from sharing stuff. And I didn't, at the time, it wasn't a conscious decision, but when I saw the decision, I'm like, oh. Welcome to Real Talk with Michael and Lisa.
Today, we're going to talk about faithfulness. Yeah.
Ooh. You like how we said that together?
Faithfulness.
We practiced. It was like our 10th take. That was a lie. No, we, in our marriage, we've talked about a lot of tools, a lot of ways to develop togetherness and staying together. And you know, honestly, there's just times where we get to choose. There's times where we have a mess ahead of us.
You mean there's times you don't feel like it? You don't feel like being lovey-dovey with me all the time?
We didn't rehearse this one.
Yes,
there
times.
are times.
Yeah.
Yes, there are times where, you know,
when you just don't feel it.
So Lisa loves long, lingering kisses.
Ooh, I do.
And she loves them when I'm getting ready to go out the door to pick up the kids from school, or when I'm getting ready to run an errand.
When it's inconvenient?
Or I'm getting ready to go work out on a project in the garage and my brain is already out in the garage waiting for my body to catch up. And I stick my lips out for a little kiss and there, a safe one. I got her on the cheek. I was safe. And she has these like little tentacles on her lips that just kind of grab my lips. They just go, ooh. And I'm like, oh no. Oh no.
This is a commitment.
My brain is already going through the door and my body is stuck.
Aww.
And you know what? The truth is, I love her. And it literally takes me a few seconds to bring my brain, whip it back into my head, because I do not make a good kisser when my brain's out in the garage working on a project. And I am learning to adapt. I'm actually learning now that when I go in for a kiss, I've actually exceeded her capacity for lingering a few times. But it is an intentional act on my part.
Well, yes. Faithfulness.
I have never said this to her before.
That's funny. So he's faithful. Do you like that? He's intentional. Other ways that faithfulness can look is, honestly, sometimes it can come just totally down to raw commitment, obedience.
Yeah, recently we talked about not having recorded for a month. And honestly, in the middle of that, there was a lot of stuff we had to process. And it would have been easier to not process and to go separate ways. That would have been, in the moment, easier.
But we made a commitment to fight for connection, to work through all our issues. And if we don't have the resources or we don't have the tools to do it, we'll go get them, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's a commitment we made. So yeah, there's sometimes a disconnect between what we feel and what we still choose to do.
There's regularly a disconnect. Like, honestly, there were a couple times this last month where I said to my phone to play it last, and it took me 5 or 10 seconds to get the courage up to ask my phone to play it last, because I didn't know what Lisa was going to do. She has always danced with me, even in the middle of an argument. But it got pretty heavy this last month. And there were 2 or 3 times where I was afraid to play it last, not knowing her response. And I chose to anyway.
So, faithfulness isn't just being sexually faithful to each other. Faithfulness is choosing in when it's difficult. It's
relationally faithful.
Right. It's choosing to work through things, even when it's uncomfortable.
And the whole thing started when choosing to be emotionally faithful. I realized there were little places where I was letting discomfort keep me from sharing stuff. And I didn't, at the time, it wasn't a conscious decision. But when I saw the decision, I'm like, oh, yeah, this has to change.
And this is within the context of marriage. But if you're single, faithfulness really still has to do with the commitments and agreements that you've made. So keeping your lease agreement,
financial commitments, lease
paying
commitments,
your bills,
roommate commitments,
jobs that you've taken, you've committed to a certain amount of time.
If you got a car and you have payments on it, or you bought a house, payments, or your taxes at the end of the year, or just saying, hey, I'll be there at noon for lunch, or whatever it is, if it comes out of your mouth, you need to follow through. Like, that is a real commitment, because it is. You want your words to be valuable.
And in our dating discovery class, we tell them at the very beginning that we're going to treat this like a dating relationship, because we want them to be able to practice being committed, using brave communication, keeping their agreements, showing up when they say they're going to show up, and they do that by coming to class and doing their homework. So we're trying to actually teach people, give people an opportunity to practice doing this. But sometimes our faithfulness, it always has in relation to God, of course. Like, what does it look like to be faithful to God?
To take, just like with Lisa this last month, honestly, the conversations that I had with Lisa this last month to get caught up on emotional baggage I was carrying, it started with God. Ultimately, I was not connecting to God in these same areas. I wasn't believing that He cared. I wasn't believing that He wanted to know all the details. I was believing that I wasn't really that important. I really wasn't that valuable. So I had to go to God and reconcile all the belief systems I was carrying about me.
Yeah. I know that there are, I consistently ask God for guidance in my life. And there have been days that I've even said, God, I'm available for you to use me today. How do you want to use me? And then He'll give me an opportunity that usually has some level of opportunity for vulnerability or embarrassment. However, what I've learned is that when I follow through, somebody else always gets blessed. That it's worth it, despite my temporary inconvenience or discomfort. If it's talking to somebody or giving somebody a gift, or I just find that people get blessed, and there's faithfulness, and it's my heart to build a history with God of being faithful, not just faithful in covenant, but faithful to my friends, faithful to Him.
And there's easy, low stakes ways to see how you're doing. Feedback, it can be scary to ask another human for feedback. There's some easy ways to avoid the other human part, and you can give your own feedback. I know we have a reading plan. We're reading through the Bible each year. We've been doing this for several years now. And when I'm behind a few days, oh my gosh. Now, the other people are connected to my reading plan, so they can see how I'm doing. So occasionally I'll get feedback from them, but it's feedback for me to see, oh wow, I missed a day. Why did I miss a day? Why was it not a priority? I know practically financially we live on a budget, and I had a budget when I was single. I've got one now that we're married to. We both have one. And I get to see how are my categories that are mainly my arena of expertise, how are they doing? And that's feedback without even having to get the courage up to go to another person.
I think it's really good to look at tangible, real results so that you can see how you're showing up. The truth is, most people, when they get feedback, their first response is to be defensive. A lot of times...
No, it's not. What are you talking about?
My first response when Michael gives me feedback is to be defensive. But there are some things in life, like our finances, right? Results don't lie. So, like, just looking at those things and going, wow, this is how I'm showing up. And we are growing in our awareness of how we're showing up and the value of
Yes.
feedback.
We actually get to choose radical, bold humility. It is I know the buildup from this last month was because I was afraid of Lisa's responses. Yeah, I don't want to hurt her. And I got to choose. I got to choose faithfulness, whatever the cost might be.
So we just want to encourage you in your journey to step into a greater level of faithfulness in each area of your life, just to steward whatever you have, your relationships, your finances, your relationship with God. Yeah, it is a journey. And so we just encourage you today, take one more step of boldness, of risk. Yeah.
Faithfulness, yeah. If you found this content useful, if you found any of this life-changing, we would love for you to hit the button and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Like it, leave us a comment, or even check out our website, kunzcoaching.com.
And if you're really bold, you could even share this with someone else.
Oh, and if they're even more bold, they can book a session with us.
Oh,
They can
that
get
would be
some
bold.
feedback or
Listen,
process something.
whoa, that would be bold. Listen, yes, I want to book a session for feedback. You got courage to do that. Yeah. Anyway, we love you so much. Have a beautiful day. We'll see you again soon.